Welcome to Beta Academy's Pandemic Podcast. I'm your host, Nakapan Phungephorn. This is our co-host, Louis Candelas, and today's special guest, BJJ Brown Belt extraordinaire and owner of Liberation Barbell Club in Texas. Tell me, where in Texas?
Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas. It
yes.
is the one and only Laurie Porsch. Welcome, Laurie. How are you doing?
Hi. How are y'all?
Laurie.
Hi.
You got a background at the school, so it looks like you never left.
I really didn't. You put my picture on the wall. On the front.
Right.
On the front of
without telling me.
Outside on the wall, still there. You're on the website. You're always here in spirit, and I always try to convince you to come back to DC. But you've been out in Texas now for how long?
18 months. It's always my plan to come back to Texas or come back to DC. I've been here for 18 months now. I moved here January 2019.
This is great because later on in the podcast, we're going to talk about what's going on in Texas. You guys got a lot of things happening out there. We like to always connect with different people to get different perspectives on what's going on around the world. That's why it's called the Pandemic Podcast. Also, what I'm understanding is that the word pandemic doesn't score very well in organic searches. I think that right now they're trying to censor that word. So if you have it in your title anywhere, YouTube doesn't rank very highly, and Facebook videos.
Learn a new thing every day.
There you go. So people that haven't, that's just my experience on there. I got 2 cats in here too. They're going crazy. So
that's all right. I'm at the gym right now, actually. So they're running a coach. If you hear anything, they're running a coach's course for powerlifting. So I don't think they can hear me, and I can't really hear them. So
fantastic. We'll talk a little bit more about that as well. But first, just if you can share with us how you got into Jiu-Jitsu, what got you into it, and how it's benefited your life.
Yeah, so I actually, I was in the Marine Corps, and they do like combatives, like ground fighting there. And I don't know why, I just liked it. We tried it once, and I really liked it. And actually, way back in 2005, I had a friend give me a pair of like Corral shorts. I think that's how you say the brand. And I never wore them. I was like, what is this? I'm not wearing these. And he took me to one jiu-jitsu class. And then fast forward about 5 years, I was in DC. I found Beta online when I was in Iraq in 2009, and I knew I was coming to the DC area for a language course in 2010, and I was like, I'm going to try this out. And at the time, Beta had an all-women's class run by Elise.
Old school.
You always forget about me when you talk about the first people at the gym. I've been there since 2010. I was there before Andrew Card.
Yep,
Shout out to Armadillo.
Yeah, shout out to Armadillo. And anyway, so I went in and I tried it. I loved it. At the time we were at the church. It was like, I think it was like Tuesday, Thursday. I don't know. There was like a women's class, and then there was like a gi class. And I remember I didn't have a gi, and you just handed me one, and you're like, here, just go do this class. I was like, okay. And at the time you just rolled. There was no foundations, okay, now we do positional. I just remember rolling and getting just destroyed. And then you were like, are you going to come back tomorrow? And I was like, okay. And then I just kept coming back. And then I left. I went to Afghanistan. So I was gone for about a year between workup and deployment. And then I came back and then I was there. From 2000, August 2011 on, I started traveling for work in 2016, and I was gone a lot of the year for 2016, 17, and 18, which I think gives me a unique perspective on what it's like to pick up training again after you haven't been training. So it can be done. And so jiu-jitsu is my favorite thing in the world. It's everything to me. Even here in my office at the gym, I have jiu-jitsu pictures of Beta in here. I have the thing that I won that Sufyan made, or so the photo that Sufyan took at Grappleathon. All my friends are from, I have friends the world over because of jiu-jitsu. It's just, it gives me a ton of confidence. I love it. I don't know if you remember me showing up, I'm super awkward, and you were just like, who is this person? Okay, try this.
I do remember. When, I think you switched over from some type of CrossFit or some type of training that you were doing. I remember you being very, very athletic, and that did help you out in the beginning.
Did help me in the beginning. You actually told me that. I was doing CrossFit. I was doing a lot of CrossFit. And I remember sometime in 2011, we had because I was just going to CrossFit, and I was just breaking myself at CrossFit for the Open. and you were like, you can either like be okay at CrossFit or you can be really good at jiu-jitsu. And I was like, well, jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I remember the house sat for you one time, and I went into your basement, and you have 30 or 40 gis.
I do.
And
I do.
gave me some insight into your psyche too, because they were all neatly folded up in the same way and all across the thing. And I felt bad because I touched one. And I was like, oh, it's out of place. She's going to know immediately that it's out of place.
So I have 34 shoya rolls, but because I've and A and P gis, but because I've been lifting, some of those A0Fs don't fit. So Tracy, if you're watching, and I think somebody else hit me up. I think Steph did. I haven't forgot about you. I still have these gis. I will get them to you.
Here's a good point. So what size are you? Like an A0?
I'm still like an A0F. It's just like some are cut a little more generously than others. I didn't grow. I'm still 5'1".
$250, $300 gis.
They're not that expensive. Those are the lucky gis. Those are the ones.
That means you and Jeff are in a competition for most shoya rolls.
We are. Yeah, we've talked. But yeah, like, so I just found jiu-jitsu and just loved it. I think at one point in time I was training like twice a day, every day. I like to say, like, from 2012 to 2014 when I was up at the fort, like, I mostly just showed up to work in the morning, was like, do you need me for anything? No? Okay, I'm going to go to jiu-jitsu. And then I would just be at the gym all day.
You were competitive CrossFit games before then? Is that what it was? That
I was competitive probably at the team regional level. Let's just put it that way. I wasn't going to make it to the games, and I wasn't going to make it as an individual athlete. But I mean, I had played sports my whole life, and then I was in the Marine Corps, which is kind of like one big contact sport. And
about Marine Corps, like McMap. That's the
McMap, Marine Corps martial arts. Oh, what a fun thing! So actually, that was like one of the in Iraq in 2000.
Look space of McMap.
So McMap is not. I mean, I would, when I had to teach McMap, especially as I got a little more experience in jiu-jitsu, I'd be like, okay, this is how McMap wants you to do this move, and like this is how you should do this move. But the whole point of McMap was just an introduction to interpersonal violence. So really, the beneficial part to McMap was the weapons handling. I think. I don't think. I mean, the ground fighting. I'm not going to teach you in like a 6-week course how to ground fight effectively. I mean, these kids. I remember when we would do McMap for PT, and the sergeant major or whomever, the CO would be like, okay, well, don't hurt anybody. And I'd be like, I'm not the one that's going to hurt anybody. It's these guys that are starting on their knees, just pushing each other, not knowing what they're doing. I'm not going to hurt anybody. So I would hurt their egos, maybe.
Like, what happens? Are you talking about disarming weapons? Are you talking about like pistol whipping people? Like how
it's more about weapons retention.
Okay.
So, and it's like a lot harder. It's really hard to grapple in like a full kit, right? Like that's hard. Even putting boots on changes everything. And you know that because you've done a lot of self-defense stuff. Like putting boots on like changes everything. But what's that?
When you're grappling, you got to protect your weapon, no?
You got to protect your weapon. And you've got to, I mean, that's the whole thing. Like keep your weapon. And then you've got like a vest on and everything. I mean, like McMap was fun. It's fine. It was not grappling. It was not Muay Thai, you know. Like I would much prefer to actually do the martial art. But
so then you started training jiu-jitsu, and when did you start doing your first competition? Do you remember your first?
Oh my God. It was with Sandra
She's still around.
Yeah, shout out to Sandra. Is she back? Is she training?
Well, she drops in like one time and she's like, oh my God, I love it. And then I don't see her for like 3 more months.
Then she comes back.
You know.
Yeah, she always comes back.
She always comes back.
Yep.
So I had only been training for like 3 months, maybe 3 months, I think, or maybe less. I don't know. This seems like something I would do on a whim. So,
dude, I've seen you. You are out of the country. You show up, and then that weekend you've competed in New York. I've seen it, and you.
Well, yeah, because everybody else at the team, said they weren't ready, and I was like, I'll show you not ready.
Yeah.
Like I've been eating bread for 6 weeks and not moving. So that was my first. I love competing. It scares me. Competing in a tournament setting is now really comfortable for me. Super fights are now where I find it to be really uncomfortable. So that's what I want to get more into, because I want to push into that discomfort piece.
I think your last one was the Fight to Win Pro. You did the Fight to Win Pro out there.
Yeah, I did a Fight to Win Pro, and like she was better than I was. I mean, she was more prepared. I did get to slam her.
Dude, that was such a good match.
And you know, you know, no excuses. She was better than I was. And I like training. I don't love drilling, which is evident probably. I just like to go out there and just roll as much as possible.
Before you left, we were trying to get you an MMA fight, and you're doing some striking, and you're trying to get there. We haven't gotten there yet, but maybe one day.
I still want to, but we were having issues because all these girls saw that they would look me up and they'd be like, "Oh, she's won this, that purple belt, and this," and I was like, "Yeah, but I can't strike. Like, this is not gonna. You should watch me. I don't move my head."
You can strike. You can strike.
I was gonna do the Ben Brophy, which was like, I'll take 2 of your punches to give you one of mine, like, and just hope it's harder. Like, that's the Brophy.
You just had a birthday. Happy birthday, Brophy.
Good old gentle.
Happy birthday, Brophy.
Yeah. So, eventually. But now let's see here. Most recently, you moved out to Texas, Austin, Texas.
For work. Yeah.
You got out of the Marine Corps, but before that, you were a mercenary, pretty much.
Yeah, soldier of fortune, I think is what we're called. No, I was a contractor for the federal government. So I got to travel throughout the Middle East. I actually got to teach some jiu-jitsu to partner forces. I had somebody one time challenge me and bet me that I couldn't armbar him and follow me around for 6 weeks, and then I did. Unfortunately, he had to get medevaced because he didn't tap. So that's a real story. I think I told you about that, Nak, right?
Ruptured his bicep or something like this. You put him in an arm lock, yes?
Yeah, he tried to curl out of it. He was like, I was very upfront with him. I was like, hey, like, I take this pretty seriously. Like, I really like training. Like, I don't know if you want to do this. Like, okay. And he just finally, he threw down mats and he like laid down the gauntlet. He's like, $100, you can't armbar me. He was a big dude. He was one of like security dudes. And I was like, okay. And at first he said we could do leg locks. I was like, no, I'm not going to be responsible for ripping apart your knee. And then, and I put him in an arm bar, and he was probably about like 230. So he tried to curl out of it, and I heard it go. I heard the noise, and I was like, oh my God, like, we need to get you ice. And he's like, I'm fine. Everything's fine. I made him pay me. And then I left the next day, and then I talked to the person who was in charge of the operation that following week, and he was just complaining about how he had to medevac somebody. And I was like, wait, why? And he was like, oh, I was talking to him online. And he was like, oh, he like ruptured his bicep in the gym. And I was like, what was he doing? He's like, oh, he said he was doing like deadlifts or curls or something. And I was like, was it his right bicep? And he's like, yeah. I was like, dude, I ripped that thing off his arm. I started crying. I thought I was gonna get fired because as a contractor, I was like, oh my God, I cost the government like however much money to medevac this guy out of country. And he had to get like his arm. So they changed his call sign now, actually. So his call sign used to be Kimosabe. And they, when he came back, they changed his call sign to armbar.
Yes.
So they like changed it on all of his stuff. Like he would introduce himself as like, hey, I'm Kimosabe. And they were like, okay, armbar. So he's out there somewhere. If he ever sees this video, what's up, man? Hit me up. Sorry, I ripped your arm apart. I thought I was gonna get fired. I was in tears. I was like, I just lost my job. But the chief thought it was hilarious. So he was like a retired Marine. He retired from the Marine Corps in like 1997. That guy was old.
Jiu-Jitsu works.
Yeah.
Jiu-Jitsu works.
So what's your experience like? You know, you are, if they haven't seen you lately, you're probably 140 pounds.
140? No, I'm 132 pounds.
Okay,
I was 125.
You fight a lot of bigger, I guess, partners in the gym. You train a lot of partners, and I think it would be interesting to know like how you find training with bigger people, and I mean, I see you handle a lot of them. So, you know, I think that maybe some of the smaller statured people might get something out of that. Like, how do you approach training being, I guess, a fun size? You used to say fun size.
So I actually I used to just go with anybody all the time. Like I didn't care how big you were, and then I got beat up pretty hard. Like I would get injured a lot, but I would still like try and bring it as best I could, right? But I think in training, like it's not just about size and skill level, it's also about intent. So, and the like person I always bring up in that is Jason Stanley, who is like a large human. He's bigger than I am. I can train with him. Is it like the most productive training for either of us? Probably not, because he is quite a bit bigger than I am. But his intent is to learn and to try and execute moves and not to like just smash. Same thing with Jeff Stanfield. Like I can roll with Jeff Stanfield and have an awesome roll. First of all, because Jeff Stanfield inverts, which is terrifying in like so many different ways. But I just sometimes like, first of all, there's no winning in training, right? But sometimes when I roll with bigger people, it's just like, I'm like, oh, you're working real hard. You're working really hard to try and hold me down. Or you're like working, like you're breathing a lot harder than I am. Sometimes it's not about like, okay, like I'm dominating this match. And sometimes it does work, because jiu-jitsu does work. But I just now, as I've gotten a little older, because once you get past 30, like it's less about getting injured and it's more about like permanent tiny like disabilities. You know what I mean? So I try and be a lot more cautious about who I roll with. And at Beta, it's great because I know everybody came up under you. So I'm really aware of like who I'm training with and what their intent is. And I also have a lot more agency there to say like, no, like I don't think this is a good training role, or like this is a good role for me. Coming down here, it was a little different because I didn't know everybody. So there's a lot of like sharking, right? Like everybody just wanted to beat me. And then as I got to know people and made friends with people more, I've gone out of my way to start to train with just higher belts more often, because the likelihood of me getting injured and me getting really good training, like the likelihood of me getting injured is less, the likelihood of me getting really good training is a lot higher. That's not to say some days I just go in and I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna beat up on some white belts today. But a lot of it just comes down to intent. And honestly, like, I guess it's less about me getting injured, but I have inadvertently injured others because they don't want to tap.
Yeah, I think ego becomes a problem too, no?
Yeah. So it's
you or someone who is, being male, and somebody female's arm locking you don't tap, and you got to get medevaced outside the country.
Or like you had a spiral fracture to your shin.
Yeah, did that happen? You do that to somebody?
Yeah.
So many injuries.
I've been training for a long time, but like most of the time, like the best thing about jiu-jitsu, and you've said it, and I always actually use your line when people ask me about jiu-jitsu. I was like, you can do jiu-jitsu full force, and barring an accident, you walk away and nobody knows that you do martial arts, right? Like, because you're not getting punched in the face. Like, you can go really hard. Like I would go to the 3 p.m.s and just get destroyed for an hour straight, because there was not an easy roll in the room, right? Like I was just like, they'd be like, oh, and now you're rolling with Gary. Oh, and now you're rolling with Danimal. Oh, and now you're, like I was just getting killed, but I could leave there and I felt fine, right? Like, so I think that's like my favorite thing about jiu-jitsu. Also, like jiu-jitsu definitely has taught me to never underestimate anybody, because you just don't know. Like, it's like the guy that's like, you just don't know what somebody can do. Charlie Brown out here beating the shit out of everybody.
Wow, that's that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he might be moving to Austin. I talked to him yesterday.
Why is everybody going to Texas?
Because Texas is open, bro.
Texas is open.
Like
Texas.
The lieutenant governor of Texas said that grandma should just die for the economy. So.
Wow. And so now, before we get into that area, so you moved. Now you're out in Texas, and you happen to be an owner of a barbell club.
Yes. So when I was deployed a lot, there's not a ton of jiu-jitsu, and like you really don't want to get injured in some of the situations I was in. So lifting was a little bit of a safer route, because I could do it alone. I usually could find a barbell, and I didn't have to drag somebody else out there. And a lot of times I would. Some of the security guys would come and roll with me, and that was pretty fun. So I always travel with a gi. So I found lifting, and then I wasn't doing powerlifting, which is its own sport. I was just kind of doing generic lifting. When I moved to Texas, I knew I needed to make friends. So I joined a jiu-jitsu gym. Give them a little shout out, Paragon in Austin. Murillo told me to train there, so that is where I train. And they've been great. I showed up and I was able to be like, hey, like I am still competing as Beta Academy. I'm still doing all this stuff. And like, he was like totally cool, which not all gyms are like that. And you know that, he was really great about it. So I made friends there.
Like that.
What's that?
We had somebody like that, Koala John. He was under Fight Sports, and he came trained with us. And then we're about to do the DC Open, and he was still under Fight Sports, and we're like, yeah, bro, we don't care. We'll still be there to coach you.
So for the local tournaments, I do that. I will go under them, but I've already told them, like, and they're totally cool about it. Like, they don't care. Actually, at Masters Worlds, I had never met Frangia, and he was like coaching me, and I was like, who is this person coaching me? Like, yelling at me. I kept looking at Nakapan, like, what's happening? Because he didn't realize that Nak was there. And so they've been great. So if anybody comes down to Texas and wants to train, that's where all the flow grappling guys train. So they shoot all that footage there. Anyway, so I knew I needed to make friends. So I just started at a gym. I went into some like random lifting class, and the guy was like, hey, I actually think like you should do this competitively. And then I just started lifting, and it really has helped. I mean, I think it's helped my jiu-jitsu. I feel stronger. I feel more resilient. And it probably kept me sane during COVID when the jiu-jitsu gyms were closed, because I could lift in my garage. I also have mats in my garage, but so I knew who was good, who could train. And I just ended up having an opportunity to open a gym with somebody. They ended up having some health issues, so they had to back out. So I am the sole owner of Liberation Barbell Club in Austin, Texas. We focus on powerlifting, strongman, and Olympic lifting. And the interesting thing is I have no idea what I'm doing, because I've never even lifted in like a Gold's gym or a regular gym. I taught CrossFit for like 5 minutes at a CrossFit, but I just basically set it up like Beta. So it's like very community focused, it's very community focused. It's very women friendly. It's very just like come as you are, like no body shaming, stuff like that. And people seem to be really liking it. I actually think that powerlifting is probably like the way of the future as far as in like stepping into that void where CrossFit was. I mean, CrossFit's still gonna be popular, but Greg Glassman blew up his brand in like 24 hours. I've never seen anything like it. So it's incredible. But I also have a lot of jiu-jitsu guys that lift here. Like we're like the jiu-jitsu guy gym. So, cause Austin has a ton of jiu-jitsu, and a lot of them now train, they're lifting here.
Nice. Yeah. So how long have you had the gym now for?
So we opened January was our grand opening, and then we were closed for 2 months because the governor did close everything in Texas from March 18th to May 18th. Or closed gyms at least. I think restaurants opened a little earlier. And so what is it, 6 months minus 2? So about 4 months. If anybody out there wants to open a gym, you should talk to me or Nakapan or Lewis first of all. Like, please have that conversation. And I was lucky because I did get to see a little bit behind the scenes at Beta, because I was an instructor there for so long, and because I've known both of you for so long, that I kind of had an idea. I was able to like kind of figure out where some of the pitfalls might be, like things that happen, and head some of those off. Of course, there's always new challenges every day, and I think it's really important to like network with other gym owners. But ultimately, like, my goal is just to create a community where everybody felt welcome, and I think we're doing that. So,
what is the environment like now in Texas? Are you guys required to wear masks all the time, or what's the deal?
Yes. So there's been a lot of back and forth. So Austin is really liberal. The cities in Texas are really liberal. So Austin, Houston, Dallas, the big cities. And then the state, the governor is a Republican. He actually sued when he was the Attorney General of Texas, he sued the Obama administration 30 or 31 times for government overreach. So he didn't want to make any orders. There were no proclamations. And so it's been a really like a balancing act. And I know you've had this, we've talked a little bit about this in DC, where you're just constantly trying to chase this moving target of like, where are the orders now? How do we comply? What can we do? Are they going to roll it back more? Are they going to go forward? So that's been tricky because the mayor can issue an order, but he doesn't have the teeth behind it to execute it or to like enforce it, because the governor won't let him. Now there are masking orders. Of course, they're written in a way where you could probably find a loophole if you really wanted to. Jiu-jitsu gyms are open here. Texans just don't care. Like,
so how is jiu-jitsu? Is it partner drills? Are there any rules?
So they are, it depends on the school, right? Every school is kind of interpreting it their own way.
Really?
Yes. So for a while it was like paired partners, where like kind of like permanent paired partners. And there are some classes where you can come in and it's open. There are others where, at least, and I'm speaking just on behalf of like the gym that I train at. I haven't trained there recently. because my parents are older and I need to see them. So, but I know that like I'm friends with one of the owners, and she is like racked her brain just like you guys have to figure out how to make this work. But yeah, you can kind of have like pretty regular training here. You know, we blacked out the windows. I'm not gonna lie.
Is the
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu school, do they also have striking, or is it pure jiu-jitsu?
So the school that I train at most of the time is pure jiu-jitsu. I actually train at a couple different schools because when I came, my very first thing, like I said to him, is like, I'm gonna train wherever I want. I'm a Beta Academy student. Nakapan promotes me, you don't. And he was like, yeah, that's cool. Like totally cool. So I bounce around a little bit. So there's one school that's striking. Striking obviously is like a little easier to get around. You can actually kind of wear a mask in striking. There's one school here that was wearing a mask while they were rolling, which is like not like why that makes no sense.
That's what, before they came out with the guidelines for phase 2, that's what we thought we were going to have to do. And then at the last minute, they said no grappling at all.
I could see, so they haven't, so that's the thing. Our orders in Texas are very broad. Now, professional sports are allowed. So that is another loophole for any of us who have ever done a fight to win. I remember I made my accountant put it. I was like, no, put in the money that I earned. Like, I'm a professional athlete. She was like, oh, it doesn't like meet the threshold. I was like, put it down. So, but so that's why there's fight to win here every weekend. So if you want to fight to win, come down. You can stay at my house. Like Seth will give you a fight, like 100%. Also, he needs refs.
I was telling Knock about that. In Texas, they're having fight to wins every weekend.
Every weekend. So come on down to Tejas.
Okay. Maybe that might be something. Maybe a fun trip.
Yeah.
But so, are you the people that you're talking to? I mean, in the news, it seems like Texas hotspot, and things are and people are all infected, and you know what is your perception on that and how the news is?
Austin is, like I said, Austin is a little bit different. Austin is kind of like this little beacon of sanity. So Austin is in Travis County. Austin is the capital. Austin is probably the most liberal city in Texas. It's like a little piece of California in Texas. It's like if California had guns and like really good tacos. That's Austin. Yeah, so the numbers in Austin aren't great. They're definitely going up. I have to admit that I know very few people who have tested positive, or have heard of people who have tested positive. Unfortunately, like a lot of those numbers are for Texas and for some of the bigger cities like Houston are really high in communities of color, which we've seen like nationwide, right? Like, and that's just like speaks to kind of like living in communal housing and living and like underlying health issues that are, you know, part of systemic racism. We could talk about all of this, right? Like everybody kind of knows what's up. So in Austin proper, I haven't noticed it. People are pretty good about wearing masks here. There's a lot of outdoor space. Austin is like one of the most outdoorsy cities I think that I've ever lived in. And so people are able to like get out and kind of socialize that way. Of course, a lot of from the economy or from an economic standpoint, like we have big things here. We have South by Southwest. We have ACL, so Austin City Limits, which is a huge music festival. Those have all been canceled. We have UT here, the university. I don't know what they're going to do. I think they're going to go all online. So yeah, it's. I see the numbers. I know they're bad. I haven't experienced it myself.
Same thing here. We're like looking all years. Oh, these hospitals are getting full, and this and that, and you know, cases are up, deaths are up. I'm not sure. I haven't seen it.
Hi, Luna.
Hey, Luna.
Hi, Luna.
She's looking so big now.
So I haven't seen it. But I mean, everything I'm doing at the gym, is I'm just trying to take like the best science and put it together the way I figure it. And I talked to a friend of mine who does a lot of my social media and my website, who's like, I like to say that he advocates, he's like the consumer advocate. Like he definitely gives me a different perspective because I'm looking at it from the business perspective and he looks at it from like the customer perspective, which is really helpful, I think, to have. And the way we figured was like, people are going to lift somewhere. People are going to go somewhere. I can do this better than like a Gold's Gym. I can do this better than some of these other gyms. So why not give them the opportunity? So I'm very truth in advertising with like what we're doing. I have like a guy that comes in or disinfects. They come in and they fog every few weeks for treatment, which is something to look at. It's like actually really awesome because they just come in and they just fog it all. And then you don't have to, it like puts the virus out everywhere. I have, invested in a lot of those like garden sprayers, and we spray all the equipment down. I have installed a rig outside. I let my members take anything that's not bolted to the ground or competition grade equipment outside. I also have gone to 24/7 access, and I have a sign-in thing on the on my like little app where people can like book their time, so it manages capacity for me. And then people also have a lot of agency over who they're training around. So if you come at 5 p.m., the gym's packed. If you come at like noon, noon's pretty packed too, but if you come at like 7 p.m., it's a little less packed. If you come at 4 a.m., it's not packed. And so they have an app, they can come right in. So obviously a different situation than a jiu-jitsu gym because you need the classes. But I really hope, I know that like training is super important to my mental health and my physical health. So for me, like I'm going to get to a point, I'm sure, where I'm like, I just have to do it. I just have to do it.
Now, as your perspective as a business owner, how does that change the way or does it change the way you look at what's going on with like, should we open? Should we not open? Like how,
I go actually, sorry, of course, I basically came to the conclusion that I have to open when they allowed us to open, or I had to close because I couldn't, if I didn't open, my members would go elsewhere, and my landlord's not going to care. So there's always a fear of like what happens when inevitably someone gets sick, because that statistically is going to happen. I do think that people can make their own decisions about a lot of stuff. So give people the option, like tell them what you're doing. So my thing is I've always been very upfront with what I'm doing about everything. I give people all the information that they would need to make a decision, and then I let them make their decision. And if they want to come in, that's great. If they don't want to come in, that's fine. Like everybody has a different circumstance. I think we're in this for like another year. So I think at a certain point, like, I don't know. I don't have the answer. But I do know there was a study that came out in Finland where there was like no transmission in a gym. It was not a jiu-jitsu gym, unfortunately. It was like just a regular like lifting gym, but there was no transmission there. So, the science evolves every day.
Armadillo must have sent you that same article he sent me.
Oh, you got it too?
Yeah. See,
yeah. Actually, my lawyer sent it to me. But
oh, really?
yeah. But there's a lot of like things to think about, and like so one of the big things is for a barbell gym we do a lot of events, and I actually the very first thing I thought of when this happened I was like Grapplethon's gone, like we can't do Grapplethon this year. And so Grapplethon, for anybody who doesn't know, it started as my baby, I would say. It's my baby. I only missed one because I was stuck overseas. I also missed two Beyonce concerts that year, so that was a rough deployment. But I think events are a long way out. Events are how barbell gyms a lot of times like make money and make revenue, or like increase their revenue, have another revenue stream. So that's out. Classes. My goal is to get people into lifting. I can't have classes yet, especially as the numbers go up in Texas. I need them to, they have plateaued, which is good because of the masking.
Gym right now, there's no actual classes. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so it's just an open gym. Like people can come in. I have a stable of trainers that train clients here. So powerlifting is squat, bench, deadlift, and then Olympic lifting is snatch and clean and jerk. And then strongman is like all the fun stuff you see on TV. Like the dudes like that's like the Mountain from Game of Thrones and stuff. Like he's a strongman competitor. Strongman is super fun. I actually think all of you guys would love strongman because it's like jiu-jitsu where it's like just find a way. There's like really no rules, just find a way. And I used to have mats in here, so if people just wanted to like jump down, because I'd have a lot of jiu-jitsu guys in here and they'd be like, oh, did you see this move, da 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 da, and they would just like jump down on the mat and like drill or roll or whatever. I pulled those up mostly to make some space. I had to move up a lot of equipment around, but
you had to space it apart. Is that
yes. spacing it apart, honestly at the beginning, and you've probably experienced this too, although DC has like a functional government, so it's probably a little better. But I couldn't get cleaning supplies.
Yeah.
That was the hardest thing to procure. So I basically had like a little army looking out and getting cleaning supplies for me. So yeah, that's been challenging, but
as business owners now, our overhead is greatly increased, because we have less space to work with because we need to space everything out. There's more cleaning, so there's more staff that's going to be involved. Yet at the same time, our overhead is, our revenue is less. I don't know if you've experienced that, but we're definitely in that.
I mean, so we're in an interesting position because we had just opened, so we really don't have anything to compare to, but I know what hang on. Put that there for one of my trainers will grab it. So Malik, can you answer that? Thank you. Sorry. So small business ownership. Yes, as you can see, it never ends. I didn't know it would ring through my headphones. That was really interesting. You have to repeat your question to me.
How's revenue going?
Oh, so we don't have anything to compare to, but I know what I had projected, and obviously we're not there. But not only that, we've increased our overhead because cleaning supplies alone are super expensive. Getting it fogged is really expensive. Just keeping like PPE, so masks and stuff like that. And then I had to put in like a new door. That's where I did the 24/7 access. So all of that has gone up. But obviously like we're not hitting our targets because people aren't leaving. And that could be because they don't want to come to the gym, or they don't want to leave their house because they're trying to social distance, or it could be because they lost their job and they don't have the money for it. And then of course I can't do all these extra streams of revenue. And it's especially an issue in a place like Beta where it's a large space and we can have a lot of people in there, but when those orders come down and they won't let you have a lot of people in there, that becomes an issue.
That's kind of where we're at now. The 5 people for every 1,000 square feet. So, you've seen how the classes are. You come in, you teach, you're going to have like 30, 40 people.
I think the biggest class I ever taught at Beta, it's 61 people.
There you go. Like you can do that in the front mat, the foundations rooms. And now we have maximum 14 people in each of the 2 rooms.
It's just, I'm so torn because like there's a part of me that's like, yes, and I think if we had just come out from the get-go in March and shut everything down for 2 months, the whole country, I don't think we would be here. Yeah, I would have rather just done that. What's that?
They told us 2 weeks. Remember?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
We're like, all right.
But it's the patchwork of because you can move state to state. It's actually really funny. One of my friends who's a Rocky reached out to me and he was like, oh my God, like you're in the gym, like gyms here are closed. Like a Rock is now in better shape, right? Because they just said like everything's closed. It's the movement from state to state. So it's
without type of countrywide plan, every state and now down to the county are all making their own rules. It makes it very difficult. And that's kind of the situation that we've been in too is, somebody might say, oh, I visited a gym in Maryland or Baltimore, Maryland, or something like this. And they're having contact. And we're like, yeah, but that's Maryland.
It's Maryland. And it's tricky because you are so close to in the DMV, Yeah.
And I always get met, and people always tell me that too, and they act like something's wrong with us. And I'm like, we just can't do what they're doing. It's like the Wild West in Maryland and Virginia right now.
And also, and this is like, I'm sure boring for the listeners or watchers, anybody that's watching, but there's no case law on this yet. So nobody knows what this looks like. Nobody knows. And America's litigious. We all know this. Nobody knows what this looks like. So if you don't follow the rules and somebody gets sick, can they sue you? And granted, could you trace where it came from? Probably not. Right. But that's the other thing. Like you want to comply with orders. You also have to protect yourself legally. And you just want to do the right thing for the community. So it really puts small business owners in a pickle, especially martial arts. It's
not a good business to be in right now.
Not a great, but on the other end, it's going to be a great business because people are just going to be ready to like get out. Like that's kind of what keeps me going. I was like, people are going to, when we get through this, or at least able to like go back to some sort of normalcy. And I don't know how long that's going to be, but people are going to be ready to like go out. I think people are going to be ready to do things that they had put off. Like how many times, and Lewis, you know this too, did somebody say, I want to do jiu-jitsu, but I got to get in shape first. I mean, like,
you know what I tell them? I tell them that's like saying you got to get smart before you go to school.
Yeah. But I think now we won't have those issues because it's going to be like, people are going to be like, you know what? I got to just YOLO. Like I got to do it.
A lot of people.
I also, if I had $1 for every time somebody said that to me, or every time somebody said I was going to join the Marine Corps, but those two things, I would be a millionaire. We wouldn't be in this position. We'd be on a yacht.
Yeah.
But I think that people are going to be ready to jump back into the fray, or jump in and do these things that maybe they had wanted to do but never could, or never like they didn't feel an immediacy. And I actually talked to one of my friends, Christian, if he ends up watching this. Hi, Christian. And he's one of my best training partners here in Austin. He's a brown belt. He's leaps and bounds better than I am, and he's small, and he does this damn crab ride that kills me. But he was saying, he's like, you know, I all of a sudden feel an immediacy about my training that I never felt before, because I just always assumed it would be there. And I'll be honest, I did the same thing. I stopped going to, I still go to jiu-jitsu, but I stopped taking it seriously because I was like, I'm not going to get promoted here. I'm just going to like get better, whatever. I'll go back to DC, then I'll like jump back in hardcore, because then I'll get, you know, I'll get my black belt there in 9,000 years or however long it'll take me. I was a purple belt for like forever. And then, but now I'm like, oh, well, I probably should have been training that whole time. You know, I was training. I just wasn't training with the same intensity that I was in DC. But it's also hard. It's just a different environment at Beta. It is. Like everybody says it, but it's just very different. Like everybody just wants to roll hard.
Well, we miss you. So
I miss you guys too. I miss you. I keep telling the woman who's one of the owners of the gym here, she's got her black belt. She's awesome. And I'm like, just wait till you go to Beta. Like, you're going to love it. Like, she beats up on me. So don't worry. Someone's still beating the shit out of me.
That's good. We need that. We all need that in our lives. So I think it's very important that you said that, you know, like, you know, nobody's putting off what they wanted to do before, you know, being able to get out. And we don't know what's going to happen from day to day. And as you said, right now, Texas for Youth, the Wild Wild West, and DC, we just got these mandatory face mask fines that are out now.
So we do have that in Austin. It's a $2,500 fine. I actually, if you see me keep looking out there, it's because I'm making sure that these guys are masked. And of course, there are times when people don't have to mask. I don't require people to mask when they're like on a max lift. Like if you were deadlifting 700 pounds, you can take off your mask for that lift, right? Prefer to keep it on. What's that?
When did they institute that fine?
So the governor, you know, I'm not going to get the dates right. The governor came out and said yes, because the cities have been asking him, please require masks. And what then the governor said, and I think it was Houston figured out, or San Antonio figured out, they can require businesses to require a mask, but not people. So as a business, you had to then mandate people wearing a mask, which is really hard. And that's when you saw the people at Costco like getting accosted when people would ask them to wear a mask. And my take on masks is like, it's the easiest thing in the world. Just wear the mask. Like it really is not that difficult.
Yeah,
right?
It's not worth the argument.
It's not, and at worst, like at best, it saves somebody's life. And I think the science is really clear that it does. At worst, it's a piece of fabric. You're gonna be fine. Like if you are so weak that you can't wear a mask, that's a weakness that like weights probably won't fix, right? Just wear the damn mask. But the state then came out and said you have to wear a mask, and it has plateaued our cases. But you know, there are obviously loopholes. Like a big loophole I have here, I have several members that have hearing disabilities. So obviously when we talk to them, because they have cochlear implants and they lip read, we take our masks down, right? So obviously like there are some like common sense things around it.
Everything is so politicized these days. You know,
politicized.
Wear a mask or don't wear a mask for the Republicans or for the Democrats.
I just think that like masks are the fastest way. It's the lowest like hanging fruit. It's the easiest way to get us back to normal in some sort of like not decade, right? Like in some sort of timely fashion.
Seems like the normal that they want is to vaccinate us all It's better getting this.
We made it 54 minutes before you got into some conspiracy theories.
Hey, you guys are military, so you used to get vaccinated against.
Oh yeah, they would just like stick shit us in our arms, and they'd be like, that's fine.
I was telling him how when I was in the Gulf, they made us do the anthrax shot. Remember that?
I got that. I have the whole series. Yeah.
And they
told
us, series. They were like, you don't have to get it, but if you don't get it, you'll be 2 months restriction and a half months pay. I was like, we'll get it.
We'll get it. Oh yeah.
You can't travel. Your kids can't go to school. You got to get this experimental vaccine. We'll see. We'll see.
It's all uncharted territory, and I mean, like the science just changes every day. I'm just, what I would say to anybody who like is worried about not training and coming back is like, I've done it. I've taken off 4 months because of work and come back, and I literally usually just showed right up at the gym from the airport. Because I knew if I went home and like got comfortable, I'd be like, oh, but I'm like, I haven't trained and I'm going to get destroyed and like, I'm going to be sore and everything. So I always made it a point to like, you guys remember this. I would come with my luggage.
Yep. You always come with your luggage, drop it off in the office.
Drop it off in the office, get on the mat every time. It'll come back. It will absolutely come back. And I don't want to say it's like riding a bicycle because I don't think it's that. The timing might be off, your cardio might be off, but it comes back. Yeah. And it's all about, I would say like for anybody that's like, oh my God, I've lost everything. Like you haven't, it'll come back.
The cases in DC have started going up. So this past Wednesday is when the mayor told us that even if you're outside, you have to wear a mask. But they do have like, if you're doing strenuous activity or strenuous exercise, you don't have to wear it as long as you're 10 feet away from everyone.
10 feet. You see, and that's it's like, well, what does 10 feet actually look like? So I just think like, I think people in general want to do the right thing. I like to think that. So I think you get people who will wear the mask, who will socially distance. Everybody has to make the right decision for themselves. And that's what I've told my members. That's what I've been messaging out. Like, hey, like come to if you want to come, if you're ready to come to the gym, we're here. Right. But like, I'm not forcing, like, I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying like, these are the protocols I'm doing. If you're ready, we're here. And I have to assume that for a lot of jiu-jitsu people, the like right, wrong, or indifferent, the risk of getting sick is probably worth the benefits of jiu-jitsu for them.
And the mayor put out this other thing. Did you hear about this, Nak? Where I think on Friday they said if anyone comes to DC from other than Maryland or Virginia, they're supposed to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Yes, I heard that.
Travel. It also sounds ridiculous. Except for Virginia, and we don't know where we're gonna tell those people. They don't know where they're gonna quarantine. We don't know from what place in the country that we're going to tell them they need to quarantine. It doesn't, and we'll tell you later. But we're gonna put it there. So
I was thinking, I wonder if they're gonna like pull over people with out-of-state license plates. Is that how they're gonna find them?
But in DC, I lived in DC for years with Pennsylvania plates, right? I had a Pennsylvania driver's license. I didn't want it because I didn't want to pay tax. I wanted to pay Pennsylvania income tax when I was in the military. I didn't want to pay DC income tax.
Conspiracy by the DC to get you to change your license plate over and pay them more money.
I mean, I don't think anybody's actually thought that far. I think that everybody's just trying to figure out like the best way forward.
No, they're losing money because they don't give out tickets anymore. Have you noticed? They're not giving tickets in DC. Like, I haven't gotten any parking tickets in like the past 2 months, which is crazy, because I get tickets all the time.
Nobody ticketed. Nobody fined you for that mustache?
Nah, don't be a hater, dog.
But what are you? So, but like, obviously, like I have lifting and stuff. But like, are you guys finding? What are you guys doing to stay active? Knock, are you still doing yoga?
Yeah, I got kettlebells. Unfortunately, the kettlebells are like 24 kilos or 8 kilos, so I have nothing in between. So my back is hurting whenever I do. Because you gave me a workout one time, like do 300 kettlebell swings. I was like, all right, I did 100.
That means you're doing them wrong.
My back hurts.
Yeah, I'll have to when I can, I'll have to come and help you.
Help me with and
but it's
training with certain people, but just knowing that they're being safe. That's it.
Yeah.
It's my house too.
I mean, the biggest thing is just testing. If we could get some sort of rapid test where like you could just take it, okay, I'm negative. Like,
You gotta
I'm
stick.
good to go. But now it's, it's 7 to 10 days. Like, how is that test even useful?
The test is not even that accurate. That's
Yeah.
the thing. It's a lot
Well,
of positives.
and even if it's even accuracy aside, if you're testing somebody and you're not giving them results for 7 to 10 days, unless they literally don't leave their house for 7 to 10 days, you don't know.
Doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. So until they figure out some sort of rapid testing,
The whole thing, stupid, and day to day, we just got to take it, day to day.
just take it
Hopefully,
day by day.
this next couple weeks, the Senate's going to pass another bill to allow businesses to get more PPP, extend some unemployment.
Yes.
In any case, it's all money they're just going to print anyway, and we will all pay for it in the end at some
Well,
point.
for sure.
They just need to forgive
That's how
rent.
it all works.
They just
But
need to
right now,
forgive
just
rent.
throw it up in the air and catch it as much as you can. Right?
Is Beta able to have like outdoor classes, or like I've been trying to follow, but I work, I run the gym and I have a full-time job. So sometimes it's a little hard. My Facebook, because I work at Facebook, my Facebook doesn't really work on my phone. So that's why I never like anything, because like my app just crashes all the time.
Wow. What's wrong with
So that's why Instagram, if you ever want to get a hold of me on Instagram. No, because I'm on some beta app where they push new product, so it doesn't always work. But yeah. So what's the plan?
Well, right now, we've been open for what, a month now, Lewis?
Yeah.
A month. We have indoor solo, socially distanced, no contact training for Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
And 1 hour classes with a 30-minute time period in between to clean up, because we got to clean the mats and clean the bags. And so the most popular class I think right now has been the heavy bag circuit training. So doing Muay Thai in the back, hitting the bags, the speed bags, working on technique and that type of thing. But we've opened up this week to having outdoor classes, even though it's been like 100 degrees outside, and also we can be getting torrential rain the first beginning of the week. We having permanent paired partners, people who live in the house with somebody else who low risk, but also people who agree to remain as safe as possible and have similar schedule, skill, and size. We try to pair them up, and that's going to be their permanent training partner throughout the quarantine. And we allow them to hit pads. So that's pretty much all that's really happening with paired partnering right now. We're taking it day by day. I know that there's been ambassadors out trying to make sure that, the businesses are complying with all the guidelines that are out there. And maybe that's just to scare people, but our first priority, of course, is the safety of our community. So we just want to make sure that we take every precaution possible. I think at this point, also, a lot of people are getting a little fancy and they're looking to get a little, beyond what kind of training we're offering, getting together and rolling. But at this point, we're in a situation where we just can't do that yet, because we're at the whim of the government. They're kind of stuck in phase 2. For them, they feel that there's 4 phases, the 4th phase being a vaccine. And then the 3rd phase, they're going to open up the capacity a little bit. Again, these are just some bureaucrats who decided like this was the acceptable step to take. But right now we've been stuck in phase 2 probably for the last month. We don't see that there's going to be any movement into phase 3. And in phase 3, we hope to have more permanent paired partnering for jiu-jitsu so people can roll. But at this point, we're kind of stuck where we are.
Well, and you're in a much different situation than a lot of other gym owners in the area. 1, because you're in DC proper. 2, you have a large gym and you're like really a leader in the community. And there's just, it's people with much smaller gyms with much less at stake can get away with more, frankly.
Some of the people that we know of have closed their schools permanently.
Pardon me? I can hear you.
Yeah, some schools have closed permanently that I've already seen in our area. Also outside of our area, not permanently, but somebody like JT has got their school closed down most recently. So
that's because New York has like pretty strict rules. But I do think like on the other end of this, like people are going to come back. They're going to come back and train. Beta is a super special place. So
we just gotta weather the storm.
We've weathered storms.
Yes.
We definitely have weathered storms.
We've been getting a lot of phone calls lately, and I think there are people that they all ask similar questions, like, do you loan gear out? Do you guys require face masks? Like they're asking specific questions, and it feels like And we've gotten a couple walk-ins that they seem like they're just checking us out. So it's a little scary.
I mean, you're right there on 14th in Florida. Like it could be, again, like super large gym, with a big presence. So it is scary. You just don't know. And that's been my thing here is I was like, you know, you all have to wear masks. Everybody has to wear masks. All it takes is one person putting something on Instagram where you're not wearing a mask, and then it gets spun up.
Yep.
But
So a lot of people.
Yeah, I miss training. I was just thinking, like, I was listening to some of the other pandemic podcasts when you were talking to like Andrew Card, and I think you talked to Jeff Stanfield and everything. I remember when Jeff first started, you know, and just like all the fun things, like all the like, you know, and listening to you talk about Sarami just like murdering people with that damn overhook.
Yeah, we want to get back to training, and it's going to happen soon. We just got to be a little bit more patient, and we got to remember that we're all in this together. As much as I hear that all the time, and I always want to punch somebody. We are in this together. So let's not try to get. Yeah. Make sure I don't put on my tinfoil hat. But
yeah, did you ever take it off, or like how does that work?
Raised from the aliens, you don't want to get your mind taken over. You never know what's going to happen. But we miss you a lot.
Miss you too.
And I'm going to continue to try to convince you to move back to DC. And if they offer you that post, please come back.
Won't be hard to convince me.
We really do appreciate your time on the podcast, and a lot of people that are following in your footsteps, becoming the jiu-jitsu competitor that you are, and we really do appreciate you coming and sharing your experience with us.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. No, definitely. Thank you for having me on. I miss you both so much. I can't wait to train again. I can't wait to train with you guys again. I can't wait to compete again, actually. I kind of lost a little bit of love for competing in the last year. And I think that's back. Like, I just want to get out there. Like, that's all I want to do. And you don't realize it until it's taken away from you, that's what you want to do.
We need those opportunities again. But to end, I have the next Grapplethon, right? So hopefully soon. I'm already getting a lot of actually got a lot of emails about it so far. You're going to have it. And like right now, there's just nothing happening at this point.
I'll be there for the next one. I remember when you hit me up and you were like, oh, it's actually a lot of work. I was like, yes, it very much is.
Can't wait.
A lot of headaches, man. Goodness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know. And I was saying that for 5 years, and you guys were like, it's fine. I was like, okay.
We appreciate you, and we miss you, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, I miss you guys too. Hopefully I'll see you soon. And like, if anybody has any like questions, like, because I like mostly jiu-jitsu or lifting or whatever, or like what it's like to take off from training and get back in, like just hit me up. Like I'm always around. Beta's my home. I love it. I miss it. It's where I want to be.
We'll always be your home. Yeah, if you have any questions, put them in the comment box. We'll also put this on YouTube, and we'll share it with you, Laurie, so you can share it with your people, and we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Take
Bye,
care.
guys.